Today I'm going to tell you why this channel is called the Cancer Raven. I think that's important because I've had people ask me before, yes, we get the cancer bit, but why the raven? So I'm going to tell you in this video, I'm going to explain it. Yes, my microphone's on a fork. Before we go any further, why is it on a fork? Because I saw a YouTuber doing this and I thought, that's actually rather cool. He's using a fork to hold his microphone. So I thought I'd give it a go. So why the Cancer Raven? Well, the cancer part is obvious because I had cancer, mantle cell lymphoma. So it's obvious I'm going to have cancer in the title because people find it, people look for things about cancer, you're going to have cancer in the title. Self-explanatory. But why the raven part? Good question. I actually wrote a blog post about this a couple of years ago when because originally I used to write. I wrote a blog post. I still do very occasionally, not as much as I used to. You can find that on my website, The Cancer Raven. If you want to go back and read old blog posts, go for it. Some of them are probably still relevant. So the raven. Well, first of all, ravens, I like them a lot. I always have. And crows as well. I like crows. I like ravens. They're clever birds. They are part of the, well, I think if I pronounce this right, the Corvidae family. I might have pronounced that wrong. You'd have to talk to an expert. Ravens are very smart. They know how to use tools. They have their own language. I'm not professing to be able to speak that language as much as I like them. I'm going to talk about the mythical side of it because that is why I've called it the Cancer Raven. It's a mythical creature. Its roots in mythology go back a very, very long way back into the mists of time of Indigenous Australia, Indigenous America, other Indigenous cultures around the world. It also is in Viking mythology, it's in Celtic mythology, it's in other mythologies from around the world. For me, I mean, I had quite a lot of interest in Celtic mythology. I'm from England originally, but I live in Australia now. This is what I know of the raven, what I've looked at, how I've researched it. And it's a shapeshifter. It helps to shift consciousness and to adapt to new situations. So it helps you to shift your consciousness to basically get you out of your comfort zone. I like my comfort zone. I won't deny that. I like my comfort zone. I know my wife Danielle will say he loves his comfort zone. He doesn't like stepping out of his comfort zone, and I don't in a lot of ways. But the raven helps you to do that. And well, cancer definitely shifted me out of my comfort zone. You get cancer, you're out of your comfort zone. You're faced with death. But the raven helps. The raven helps with that. It helps you to adapt to new situations. It helps with this change in consciousness that can shift fear into hope. And hope is important, especially when you have cancer. So for me, the raven was this creature, and where I was living at the time, which is not where I'm living now, but where I was living at the time when I was first diagnosed, there were a couple of ravens that lived in a tree nearby, and they showed up a lot, and I mean a lot. And they would come and they would look at me, especially if I was out the back hanging out the washing. They'd come and they'd look at me almost to say, come on, get on with it. We're here to guide you, to help you shift into a state where you can move beyond the fear and into hope and into belief that you will get better, because you will. You have to tell yourself that, and they help with that. And when I was writing my blog, and I'd have days where I'd have mental blocks, or I didn't feel like it, or I've got to go for a scan, or all these sort of things. You don't feel like writing a lot of the time. But I made myself, because I thought, well, one, it was cathartic for me, because when I actually did sit down to the nitty gritty and write a blog post, it really helped me a lot. I got it down. Well, I was going to say I got it down onto paper, but I got it down onto onto a Word document. But then I published it. I created a website. I published it on a website called the Cancer Raven. You can go and read those blog posts. So the Raven helped with this shift in consciousness. It helped me to move deeper into myself and to actually look at who I am. I've got cancer. I'm going to live, I was telling myself, but, cancer does kill people. We know that. So, I want to discover myself before I die. Who am I? So let's speed the process up. And the Raven was telling me to speed the process up. So I was trying to shift my consciousness into a deeper state to look internally into myself. Because the Raven, it's also a bird of creation and healing. So it does that because it teaches you to connect to the creative life force within yourself. But beyond that as well, what it tries to do is it tries to show you those darker aspects of ourselves within the subconscious that maybe we don't want to look at. The things about ourselves we don't like. And some of those things can be buried quite deep. And the thing with some of these things is they're on a, they're on an emotional level, on a mental level, some would even say on a spiritual level. But all of that has a knock-on effect that if it sits there and it festers and you don't deal with it, eventually it will transpose itself onto the physical. And then that can create physical illness. And cancer is a physical illness. I have it, had it. I say I have it. I don't have it. I don't have cancer. I'm in full remission, but I had it. So I had to go in to try and find those darker aspects of myself that I don't like or didn't like. You go and look within and you go and look at all the things that are causing that. And for me, the Raven takes you into that really nitty gritty, that dark in there, somewhere in there, wherever it is, whatever you believe, that darkness that you have to step into to find. And by stepping into that darkness, the Raven will show you the light. It will fly through the darkness to the light and it will take you with it. But along the way, you have to look at what has caused that darkness that's inside you. So all of this internal darkness, the Raven flies in, roots around and goes, there's your darkness, deal with it. And when you deal with it, there's the light up there. I'll take you to the light, bring you out the other side. But you have to look. So these are the reasons that I called it the Cancer Raven. The Raven also stands at the doorway between life and death. And when you have cancer, you are constantly hovering around that doorway between life and death. If you're like me and you respond to treatments, you get into full remission. So you step to life. Go through that doorway. The Cancer Raven. It's a fairly unique name, I guess, for a website, a YouTube channel. And people go, the Cancer Raven, what does that mean? Because you don't really normally associate the word cancer with the word raven. And I always thought if people saw the name the Cancer Raven and they thought, oh, that's cool, that must be to do some weird thing to do with astrology or whatever, and then they started reading my blog, they would have got a shock because actually, oh no, it's not about astrology, this is actually about cancer and life and death. But the Raven ties into that. Now, I know not everyone is going to believe this. I know not everyone is into mythology and history of this sort of thing. But it's what you believe in. I'm quite into mythology and I'm quite into totems and totem animals and all that kind of thing. And for me, it works, the Cancer Raven. But it doesn't really matter whether you're into all of that or not. We all have different belief systems. Some people just think animals are animals, there's no mythology to animals. It's an owl, it's a bird, it's a clever bird, it's just a bird. But, you know, when you look at indigenous cultures around the world and you look at mythology, and all right, things are worded differently, they maybe have been perceived a little bit differently, but they're pretty much all coming up with similar concepts about a raven as they do with other stuff. So I don't think they just all made it up on a whim. All in different parts of the world, never met each other, and they've all come to the same conclusion. That's a bit too coincidental for me. So I believe there has to be something in it. There has to be. I absolutely believe that. You know, the reality may have got lost in the mists of time a little bit. We may have, you know, misinterpreted stuff as we've gone along, but I think the basics there of the mythology are correct. So for me, the Cancer Raven, looking at that, for me, I was using the raven to help me find a way through the darkness of Cancer. Hence the Cancer Raven. The raven wasn't bringing cancer, it was trying to help me survive cancer. It was my light at the end of the tunnel. Now, you don't have to have a raven to be your light at the end of the tunnel. But you need to find that light. You need to be able to, through all the madness of cancer and all the darkness, you need to focus on that light at the end of that tunnel. And that light has a word above it, or several words maybe, but that light says full remission, says cancer free, says no evidence detected. That's your goal. That's your light at the end of the tunnel. And you need to utilize whatever you have in your possession within yourself to get through the darkness and get to that light. That's important. And that is why it's called the Cancer Raven. All right. Thanks for watching. My name's John. Every second counts. Like, comment, subscribe. Big love. See you next time. Bye.